Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Raffi, and as always, joined by Theodore. David, unfortunately, can't make it, but we are back. Took a little bit of an intermission, partially on our ends, partially because Riverside was giving us a ton of issues, so we couldn't post any of the content. We at Benchwarmer Sports take high-quality content very seriously, so we want to make sure that whatever we're posting looks good and sounds good. So, unfortunately, we had to scrap a couple podcasts in a row. But we're back. Hopefully this one works. We're doing this on Skype. Theodore, we had to hop on before the playoffs started because boy, I cannot wait for the NHL playoffs to begin.
Neither can I. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a little more of a football, basketball, even baseball guy. But I've been following hockey more and more over the past year. Watched a bunch of the playoffs last season. Thought I was going to watch some regular season. I really didn't. But I've been following along, and now it's playoff time. I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to talk some hockey right now.
Absolutely. And this is just a year where it feels like we say this every year, but it really can go. You can really pick any team, and you can make a solid case for any of them. Now, that's besides the Toronto Maple Leafs. But aside from that, any team could, in theory, win a playoff round this year. So I think it's going to be definitely interesting to see. So let's just dive right in. So we'll start off over on the East. And we'll start with the President Trophy winner, Boston Bruins, 135 points, 65 wins, both NHL records. Theodore, the thing that made me feel the best about the Blackhawks being terrible this year was my second team, my backup team, the team that I go to in the playoffs, thanks to my father. The Boston Bruins were by far the best team in the NHL. So much fun to watch. And this team really feels like the last dance potentially for Bergeron and Krejci. And I think this team is going on. There's a difference between being a really good team getting 120 points and just like kind of sleepwalking into the playoffs versus what the Boston Bruins are doing right now, where they absolutely just kept steamrolling everyone. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They've been the second best team since March 1st, since the trade deadline. I don't know how you can pick against the Bruins in this series.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't really see how you don't either. First of all, you threw me a little curveball by going to the East first. I was expecting to start out West.
No.
No, we start out. You see, I'm from the East, so we usually save the East for last. Different perspective.
East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
East Coast, West Coast, Best Coast. I'm more of an East guy, even though I'm in the Midwest right now.
Hands down. My thing with the Panthers I really do think they're a solid team.
Oh, yeah.
And look, I mean, the NHL is a sport where you routinely see the 8 seed compete with the 1 seed. I call it 8-1. I know we don't really view it that way in hockey, but the fact of the matter is the Bruins are just way too good. And we talked about this whole last dance perspective a little bit last year, actually, where we said, next year might be it for that team. I don't think any of us saw this incredible of a season coming, which it's just been mind-blowing to watch.
No chance.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is I think the Bruins take it in probably the 5 games, I'll say.
Yeah, I have the Bruins in 6. Once again, I mean, this team's just been unbelievable. I had them as a wild card. Theodore, I think you either had them as a wild card or just out. I know.
I had them on a wild card. I thought they'd sneak in.
Right. I think we all had them as a fringe wild card team.
But, wait. Let me say something. A lot of people like to slander my picks. Who said that the Pittsburgh Penguins playoff streak would end? Me right here.
You did.
I did.
Because I am legally obligated. I'm on a legally binding contract to never pick against the Penguins until it happens. So we'll see what happens next year. But yeah, you have to go with the Penguins. You can't doubt Sidney Crosby. Now, I didn't expect them to lose to the Chicago Blackhawks and Columbus Blue Jackets, 2 of the 3 worst teams the last 2 games. Those probably could have helped them make the playoffs. But one final note, because I want to still talk about Florida a little bit. Matthew Tkachuk he's not going to win the Hart Trophy because Connor McDavid exists, but he had a really good year for Florida. Out of all the guys, him, Gaudreau, and Huberdeau, the 3 guys who got moved all around from the Flames, Panthers, and that whole debacle, Tkachuk was by far the best player out of the 3. Huberdeau was terrible this year. I'm not even going to talk about the Flames because then I'll go on a long rant. Brandon Montour as well has 73 points. I didn't know this until like 2 weeks ago.
I still don't know.
It's the most absurd thing. He had 40 points last year. Mackenzie Weegar, obviously, as we all know, went to the Calgary Flames in the big Huberdeau trade, Tkachuk trade. But Brandon Montour has 73 points. That's absolutely unbelievable. And again, it's a team that's very top heavy. my big concern with them and the reason why I have Boston winning in 6 is Alex Lyon is the starting goalie. He's been very good down the stretch. One of the reasons why Florida is in the playoffs and got a spot. But I just don't think that he's good enough to. He can steal a game or two with how he's been playing, but I just don't think he has that magic where he can just steal a series. Moving on, let's get into Tampa and Toronto. So this is a rematch from last year. We all know how that went, and that was hilarious once again. The Maple Leafs are in their 7th straight playoffs, which is now tied with the Bruins for the longest consecutive playoff streak, active streak at least, with the Penguins missing the playoffs recently, which ended 16 long years of playoffs. I'm sorry. This is the same. I just remembered this rant from last year. And I'm going to do it again.
Too.
If you had covered both the teams and showed me just the stats, I would take the Maple Leafs. Then you remove them, and I see it's the Maple Leafs, and I'm going with Tampa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You need to prove to me that you can win a playoff round before I pick you going anywhere. I'm sorry. I'm going Tampa. They lost Tanner Jeannot. I don't know if he's coming back. I love Brandon Hagel. He was great on the Blackhawks. He's having a great year with the Lightning, by the way. My big thing is Vasilevsky has been a little up and down this year, but in the playoffs, and just for the Tampa team in general, they've shown the past few years that they can just turn it on right when the playoffs begin, right when the puck drops in game 1. I like Tampa. I'm going to take Tampa in 7. Again, any other two teams with the same stats and everything, I would go with the other team, but it's the Maple Leafs, so I can't do that.
Yeah, look, I have very similar takes on this. I've been just very vivid in my making fun of the Maple Leafs, as have you. You know, hearing people going in the series picking the Maple Leafs is crazy to see because, like, look what happened last year. They had a 3-2 lead, right? And the year before, it was 3-1 against the Canadiens. They've just been, you know, there was the famous Game 7 collapse against the Bruins. What was that, 2013?
Which one?
Yeah, I mean, right? Like, there's so many. They've lost, 8 games now in a row where they were 1 game away from moving on or something crazy along those lines.
And and winnable in games to advance. I think they're 0-8 or 0-7 right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, we could go on laughing at them forever. But the other thing I just want to throw out, like, I legitimately think Tampa is still a good team. Obviously, a little regression, but look, they still have the big guns. I mean, they still have all this talent on their team. Victor Hedman, a name we didn't even throw out there earlier. And the fact of the matter is, Vasilevsky, I still believe, like, there are maybe 2 goalies I'd take over him in the playoffs this year in big-time situations. He just has an ability to step up in the big moments, and I think that not only does Tampa win this, but I think that they're a team to look out for competing with Boston in the second round.
I have a little bit of skepticism for Tampa just because they've been below 500 since the trade deadline of late. I think they're below 500 on the road. So that's a concern too because Toronto has home ice advantage, which is very big because both teams are very good at home, but Tampa's been, again, very oddly sub 500 on the road. The big key loss for them, and we'll get into this shortly when we're talking about the Rangers and Devils. Andre Palat was a big playoff performer for Tampa over the past few years. He's currently on the New Jersey Devils, signed with the Devils this past offseason. So that's a big loss for Tampa. But once again, it's like me picking the Penguins to make the playoffs every year. Like, I can't. The Maple Leafs just need to win a round. You win a round, you will earn my respect. And at this point, if you lose again in the first round, tear it down. It's done.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Matthews will come to the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll take care of him, and we will help him, along with Connor Bedard as our 1-2 punch. We will show him what it's like to go far in the playoffs.
Good luck getting Connor Bedard with the 3rd overall pick.
Or the 3rd best odds?
No, he's going to land the 3rd overall pick, and he'll be screwed over. It's going to be fun to watch.
Just wait until Connor Bedard somehow falls to 3.
I can't wait for Raffi's meltdown when they actually don't get Bedard. It's going to be fun to watch.
Just quick little, I like to do this at the end of the podcast, but definitely follow us on TikTok, Benchwarmer_sports. I will be live streaming the draft lottery when that happens. I will be live on TikTok when that happens. So you guys are going to want to tune into that. Don't worry, you won't see a meltdown out of me because
I think we're going to get tears. I think we're going to get full-blown tears down the face. Yeah.
We'll
It'll be
see.
fun to watch.
We'll see. It's okay because I can just watch Daniel Jones highlights and I'll be fine. I'll feel better later on. Moving on. Moving on. Moving on, let's go to the Metro. And honestly, if you told me one of those four teams, you can make the argument for any of those four teams to make it out of the Metro. We'll start with the Hurricanes and Islanders before we get into the big series because I know Theodore is going to want to talk a good amount, which I'm more than happy to allow that to occur. The Canes and the Islanders. Now, the Islanders have fought their way back to the playoffs. Matthew Barzal was injured a couple months ago, and a lot of people, including myself, thought they were dead in the water. Turns out they're not dead in the water. So the Islanders fought back, clawed their way into the playoffs, and this is a team that, although the offense concerns me, they still have a very, very good, gritty team, very good defensively. And the big thing that separates the two teams, the Hurricanes and the Islanders, that being, is the Islanders have Ilya Sorokin, who is arguably one of the top goaltenders, top five at least goaltenders in the NHL. Carolina, once again, we enter the playoffs with the same story. Who is going to be their starter? Anderson has been solid, but he's been up and down. Obviously, injuries are a big concern. Ranta hasn't been too bad, but once again, he's shown that he can get hurt potentially. Konchekov, another guy in the AHL, not bad. He played well versus Boston last year. I'm going to go with the Islanders. I think that's a bit of a crazy take, but Andrei Svechnikov, they lost him, and lately the Canes have been kind of up and down of late. I think the Islanders play a really, really tough style of hockey like the Hurricanes. This is going to be a very physical series. This is going to be a very bottom six type series where it's going to both teams are going to drag each other into the mud. I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring across the board. Both teams also are terrible on the power play. I don't know if any team's going to score a power play goal in this series. The Hurricanes, that's what did them in last year, as you remember, Theodore, because the Rangers beat them in the second round. But I'm going with the Islanders because goaltending, and I just think that this could be a low-scoring series as a whole.
Raffi, you stole my moment. I was going to have the big genius take where I was picking the Islanders to win this series. And look, we did a studio show in my school, and everyone had Canes in 5, and I had Islanders in 7. I defended them. It was such a cool
I
moment.
have Islanders in 7 too.
Yeah, Islanders in 7. Look, really for the exact points you said, I think they got talent. Sebastian Aho, great player. They have a lot of. They're a decent team all around, and I
had them winning the cup. I'm pretty sure I had them winning the cup this year.
Preseason
back in October. Yeah, wow. I think I did.
I watched them against the Rangers, and that kind of gave me a good gauge of their team last year at least, and I just don't see anything special out of this squad. I think they're a little overrated to tell the truth, and we're gonna get a big time New York City area matchup with the Islanders moving on in the second round.
Yeah, and the thing too is the Hurricanes, they missed on Timo Meier, they missed on Ryan O'Reilly, they missed on a lot of the top guys. They missed on, I don't think Patrick Kane didn't want to go to the Hurricanes, but that was another guy who could have really been a good fit for the Hurricanes in my personal opinion. The Hurricanes, all they did was picked up Puljujärvi, who's the Bison man, but he's not going to really move the needle. Shane Gostisbehere, not a bad offensive pickup, but you already have guys who can pick up points like Brent Burns, so I don't really know what they were doing with that pickup. So they didn't really wow me, and with the East being an absolute arms race, I was definitely concerned about that.
Everyone was just all the real contenders did so much to improve.
The Bruins, everyone that they picked up, Orlov, Bertuzzi, Hathaway, everyone's turned into gold. The Rangers, obviously, with Tarasenko, Kane being the two top guys. Devils had Timo Meier. The Lightning had Tanner Jeannot, who they gave way too much for. But that's beside it. If you're winning, you're winning. So
right, yeah.
What it is. Toronto with their big stuff with Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty, Ryan O'Reilly. I completely agree with your point.
And I think it's a completely different story had the Canes made a couple of that moves, but we're talking about them as a true contender to come out of the East. I just don't see that right now.
And unfortunately, like many people were saying, with UCLA being one Jalen Clark away from going on a deep run and potentially win the championship, the Hurricanes, unfortunately, are one Andrei Svechnikov from going on a potential deep run. Yes, I'm still hurt by UCLA, but it's okay.
It's okay.
Carolina, I just think is going to bow out a bit earlier than people expect them
to.
All right, now let's get into the big series, the one that I am very excited for Theodore to talk about because now I can see how much progress I've made pushing him into the hockey realm over the past year. It's crazy. We've been doing this for almost a year and a half now. This podcast.
I know, it's absurd.
Devils Rangers. I'm not going to say anything yet. Theodore, I want you to take the stage and show me your hockey
Okay, so
knowledge.
you trust me
on
to
this
take
game.
the full lead on this. Okay.
I absolutely.
Yeah. Look, let me ask this. What don't the Rangers have? I mean, you look at this team, and I know we didn't have the best regular season. I know it's pretty frustrating at times when you look at how they performed. I could name off Rangers players for minutes and not run out of quality guys. First of all, you got leadership up top. That is, in my eyes, the biggest, most significant difference from last year's team. Like last year, you had the kid line, which was great and still is, and that's something I'll get into in a second. But there really just wasn't that true leadership on the team. And first of all, to name a captain was an incredible move. Like that was exactly what the team needed. And then to bring in Kane and Tarasenko at the deadline, it's just, with those two and Trouba and players who are now one more year experience, I feel much better about the leadership. You still have youth. You're still a young team, but you're a little more weathered coming into the storm. Second off, the kid line. The kid line is something that I feel like people have stopped talking about, and I don't really know why. Because they have just this ability to provide an energy boost. I mean, they really they can energize a crowd in a way. They can hype up the team. And when they do good things, I forget what shift it was. I just remember, I want to say it was against the Canes last year in one of those games. You saw the kid line come in. It resulted, I believe, in a goal. I forget exactly who scored it, but you just saw the whole demeanor of the team change right there after the kid line came in and contributed. So they still have it, and at the end of the day, we still have a really, really, really good goalkeeper. I know he's not going to win a Vezina award this year. He's not quite as good as he was last season, but I still fully trust our keeper coming into the playoffs. Devils were a good team. Jack Hughes, though, so overrated. Give me a break. He's not that good, and he's going to get exposed this series. Rangers in 6.
Jack Hughes, 99 points. He was 1 point away from being the first player in Devils history, franchise history, to get 100 points, I believe, which is crazy that hasn't happened before with guys like Elias and other top players that have played for the Devils before. I've been very, very between, and I don't really know who to pick still. And this pick can obviously change as time goes on. Now, I do have rooting interest in this game because first off, I do have a Rangers jersey. I have a Henrik Lundqvist jersey. I do like the Rangers from time to time. And obviously they have my best friend, Patrick Kane. He doesn't know that we're best friends, but we're basically best friends. I mean, I've sent him DMs before. He hasn't answered yet, but it's okay. He'll get back to me once the playoffs are. Anywho, Patrick Kane and Tarasenko, two guys that have proven and know what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. I think that's really
and let me just say this now.
Yeah.
People are saying, Patrick Kane wasn't even that impactful in the regular season, which, he performed a little worse than I would have expected. But the fact of the matter is, first of all, he wasn't that bad. It's not like he was a bad player by any stretch. And second of all, it's the playoffs. This is where he's going to shine. So that's just for everyone who says Kane won't have an impact.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go with the team with the better goalie, the Rangers. The one concern with the Rangers that I have right now is I don't think they're too physical of a team aside from Mr. Elbow Too High, Jacob Trouba. So I'm intrigued to see what happens when they move on potentially to play the Islanders. Hurricanes are a tough team as well. The Bruins, even the Lightning are pretty tough. The Maple Leafs are a very soft team, so that's a good matchup for the Rangers. But that's just my big concern is how the grit factor. So I have the Rangers winning in 7. I told Theodore and Davian this. They can back me up. I've told them this since January when the Devils and Rangers were 2 and 3. I hope that those two teams stay where they are because that's going to be an amazing series. And look where we are. So give me the Rangers in 7.
Yeah.
Moving out west.
One more thing on the Rangers because I have so many points. This is what I researched for, so I want to say as much as I can. I am a little concerned with the Devils' speed. I need to see him play very, very fast. And from what I watched on games and film breakdowns and all that stuff, the Rangers have struggled with that. And that's part of the reason why I believe they ended up losing 3 out of 4 against the Devils this year, because they're a fast team, and we're not really quite equipped to deal with that. But at the end of the day, the firepower is just there. And yes, we also have the pressure on us, but I think that we have experienced enough players and hungry players. Like, I think Breadman wants to get a chip. I think Kreider wants to go out and win. I think Adam
What do you
Fox-
mean? Panarin won the Stanley Cup with the Blackhawks in 2017.
Yeah, and he hasn't
He
gotten
didn't get
back
traded.
since. So
No,
when
he
you
didn't.
taste
We traded him.
my point though on that is when you
I know.
taste success so early, you don't want to just go through the rest of your career not winning. Like, it's almost all right. Let's like an example of this would be. Well, what would a football example of this be? Because I thought I had something. You can even make the case like Mahomes goes out, wins the Super Bowl, right? Second year. What's he going to do? Just sit around and not be hungry to win another Super Bowl the rest of his career? No. Players
Well, that's
want
like the Patrick Kane.
right? Yeah. So I just there's pressure on us, and the Rangers are like it'll be a catastrophic failure if we lose it. And I think the pressure will help the team perform the best they can.
I mean, if we're going just very early, just before anything happens in the offseason, I mean, Luke Hughes is an X factor. Maybe does he go Cale Makar mode back in 2019? We'll see.
No, he doesn't.
The Devils are a team that I'm going to take a deep look at if they make the right moves this offseason as a Stanley Cup contender next year.
Oh,
I think they
great.
finally stepped it up. Oh yeah. Moving on, let's get out west because we took this is why I wanted to do the East first, because I knew this would take more time and I wanted to get all of Theodore's thoughts. I didn't want to have to rush anything. Let's start to roll through some of the Western matchups because I think some of them are a bit clear. As for Seattle, great story. They had a great bounce back year. They have great forward depth as a whole. They don't have any superstars. I mean, Beniers is a superstar in the making. Jared McCann had 50 goals. Sorry, let me pump the brakes. He had 40 goals. He could get 50 goals at some point. He's 26 years old, but he had a great year. My big concern is the Avalanche don't have Landeskog. They didn't have him throughout the entire regular season, and they won't have him for the playoffs. That's their captain. They still played well, but they had issues with Makar with injuries. They had issues with Josh Manson, Arturi Lehkonen. So they've been hit with the injury bug. And as we saw back in the bubble, the Avalanche, when they get hit with the injury bug, it's an injury bust, and it is really rough for them. So I'm a bit concerned about the Avalanche's bid for defending the title, but I do have them beating Seattle in 6.
I was really excited for the Kraken. They're a fun team. They're an up-and-coming team. I believe coming into that last game of the season, they were supposed to play the Stars if things had ended that way.
Yeah.
And that would have been a winnable matchup, I think, for them. But absent 5, Colorado's just too good.
My big concern, too, is just the goaltending of Seattle. We'll obviously see what happens, but Martin Jones or Grubauer, whoever's starting for them, I just don't think that they size up well with Alex Georgiev, who is an ex-New York Ranger. Moving on to should be really good matchup. The Dallas Stars and Minnesota Wild. The Wild are always just one of those. They live in purgatory. They always make the playoffs and they always lose early. They can't go on a deep run. Now that's partially due to the fact that they unfortunately had to deal with the Dynasty Blackhawks back in the early 2010s, and now they've been getting their butts kicked every first round by the likes of the St. Louis Blues and Dallas Stars, etc., Avalanche a couple times. I like the Dallas Stars. I think they picking up Domi. I really like Domi on the Blackhawks. He hasn't been as good as he was or racking up as many points, but he's still been a solid player. I love Hintz, Belsky, and Jason Robertson. That line is amazing. The Dallas Stars are entering the playoffs, winning 6 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. And the big one is Ottinger. Jake Ottinger. Otter, as some people call him. The goaltending stands out. Yes, Minnesota has Marc-Andre Fleury, but the Wild have just been they heated up and they showed that they can score without Kaprizov because Kaprizov was out for a little bit for I think a couple weeks. But again, I just don't like this Wild team a lot this year. I saw them play the Avalanche and I was really blown away at first, but I'm gonna go with Dallas because I just think Dallas is all around a better team defensively and in net.
I talked about the Canes as being one of the 2 teams I thought were really overrated. The Dallas Stars are that second team.
Wow. Okay.
I think Ottinger is a good player. I think they have talent. I just don't think they're that good all around. And I'm very, very high on the Minnesota Wild. Look, you talk about it. They always compete. They're always a good team. They can never break through this year. That changes. Marc-Andre Fleury is the type of goalie that you can lean on to go on a playoff run. Look what he did in Vegas in 2017. The fact of the matter is they are just a good team all around. Kaprizov there. You got Matt Zuccarello, Rangers legend right there. Not quite legend.
Yes.
He was such a fun player, Zook. I really think that it's shaping up for the Wild to potentially go on a pretty deep playoff run. So give me Minnesota in 6 here.
Yeah, I got Dallas in 7. Minnesota, my big concern with them is who's going to score goals for them. I think that's the big thing. If their offense
I honestly think they have enough defense where, at least right now, they can, like you talked about with the Islanders-Kane series, they can keep it to a very, very low scoring series and, come through in big moments.
The Dallas Stars, without knowing, have sabotaged their opponents because by letting go of John Klingberg, he made his way to the Ducks. We got traded to the Wild. So now the Wild have a gaping black hole defensively on their blue line. So the Dallas Stars playing 3,000 IQ chess right there. Moving on over to the Pacific, we got Vegas and the Jets. This is a series that I'm a bit mixed on. I have Vegas. Mark Stone should be good to go for game 1, and hopefully he's healthy because I think Vegas is a great team with Mark Stone, and I love watching Mark Stone play. He's probably the second best two-way player aside from Patrice Bergeron, who is always going to be one of the top Selke guys every year. I have Vegas winning in 7 versus the Jets. Connor Hellebuyck is the reason why the Jets haven't absolutely had a meltdown, but if you look back at some of the TikToks over the past month, you know that I am very low on the Jets. Even though Josh Norrisy, or better known as Josh Morrissey, has had an absolute breakout year this year.
The Jets are a team I picked to miss the playoffs. Congrats, they got in. I have Vegas in 5. I was very high on the Knights coming into this season. Jack Eichel, I think, proved me right. He had a very, very good season. Kind of is starting to get to that level that people thought he could when he was first drafted. And I really, really like this Vegas team, although their second half matchup is going to be a bloodbath.
Absolutely. And let's get into the matchup where the winner of the Jets-Vegas series will be playing, and that is the Oilers-Kings. I think we can keep this pretty short. I got the Oilers winning in 6. Could be 5. Could be – I don't pick sweeps because I don't really think that happens. But if someone was just to walked up to me and was like, Raffi, pick a sweep, I pick the Oilers sweeping the Kings. The goaltending, you picked up Korpisalo. I'm still a big concern about the goaltending. I don't really like picking up Gavrikov at the deadline either. I'm not very high on the Kings this year, which is surprising too because I was very high on them to start the season.
I remember that.
I got really
6. A year ago we talked about how the Kings had been a team that looked like they were dying, and I think it was last trade deadline where they went and they made moves to kind of keep their future alive. And I mean, congrats on them for getting in. Like, they're a team that we really thought would be dead in the water, and at least 2 calendar years ago, like they looked like they were on the decline for sure. And they've gotten to that point where I think we'll see them in the playoffs a bunch going forward, but they're just no match for the Oilers here. Give me Edmonton in 5.
Kings fans aren't going to like this, and partially because I'm a Blackhawks fan too. I don't think they're going to like it even more. I think the Kings could potentially, if Quinton Byfield doesn't develop and some of the younger talent, they have such a good prospect pool, but if those guys don't really develop as they have been the past few years, the LA Kings could very well turn into the Minnesota Wild of the next decade, where they just make the playoffs continuously, but they don't go anywhere. So that's just something.
Take it from someone who has been a fan of teams who've been in that position. It's not horrible to watch. I mean, you get a fun regular season every year. You get fun playoff games. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's better than being a fan of a completely tanking team, I'd say. But it's more fun to obviously watch your team compete for titles. So it's mixed emotions, of course.
Yeah, I think the Blackhawks rebuild, at least it was about time, unfortunately. So yeah. I'll wipe my tears with my 3 Stanley Cup rings on my fingers. It'll be okay. Let's get into our Stanley Cup matchup. So I'll start off. Like you with the Wild, I like the Stars going pretty far, but I have the Oilers going to the Stanley Cup final, where I have them taking on the Boston Bruins. I'm going to say I had the Islanders currently playing the Bruins. I'm going to go with the Rangers, and there's Hawks bias. If the Rangers go to the conference finals, I get a first-round pick. So I'm going to go with the Rangers, meeting that requirement so I can get a first-round pick, an additional first-round pick. I have the Bruins being the Oilers. If anyone wants to dig up my old podcast, they would know that I don't like picking teams that I like going on deep playoff runs just because it just feels a bit biased, and I don't really like it. But, I mean, this is just one of those years. In 2019, I had the Bruins losing in the Stanley Cup Final to the Flames. That was partially right. I had the Blues actually losing the Western Conference Final. This year, I have the Bruins beating the Oilers. Connor McDavid's on a mission this year. Stuart Skinner has been average to above average in net, and I think that's all the Oilers really need. The defense still concerns me, but I think the pickup of Matthias Ekholm has been great for them. It's really been working out. I have the Oilers making the Stanley Cup Final. I have the Bruins, though, continuing on the drought of Canadian teams since 1993 of not winning a Stanley Cup. So I have the Bruins over the Oilers. Give me the Bruins in 6.
I'm very tempted out west to pick the Vegas Golden Knights. But at the end of the day, Edmonton just seems too good. I mean, it feels, I mean, they got to the conference finals last
The
year.
Oilers, just to run over your point real quick, just to help fuel that fire, 18-2-1 since March 1st, since the trade deadline. The Oilers, unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're better than Boston down the stretch.
Regardless, I think the winner of that Vegas Oilers series is definitely the team in my eyes that goes to the Cup. I think the Minnesota Wild do make it to the conference finals, but they're just probably going to get ran through by Edmonton in that Western Conference final matchup. And then on the east side of things, I have chaos all around. I like the Lightning to upset the Bruins second round. You know, I was saying on the fence about that. I just think, look, it's been such a good season for Boston, but at the end of the day, no team in the East has more of a track record of success right now than Tampa does. And yes, they're looking like they're on the decline. They're losing pieces, all that. But I really like Vasilevsky to take this team to the conference finals where they will play and lose to the New York Rangers.
What? You have the Rangers going to the Stanley Cup final?
Who would have thought, right? Yeah, look, obviously I'm biased here, but the fact of the matter is you
have points to provide it, though. And that separates you from a lot of people in the general media where they just say the Rangers because they're in the media realm. So I appreciate you bringing some good talking.
Because, like, we beat the Canes last year. We've beaten the Islanders. So it's like I'm not really scared of that second-round matchup. I think Jersey's going to be a bloodbath round one. As long as we get past that, we get to the conference finals. And, look, this team has pressure on them, but it also feels like a bit of a team of destiny. I mean, it's been 29 years since New York's won a Stanley Cup. I hear older fans, you know, in New York all the time talk about that 94 run and how, like, there was the 54-year curse and, like, the team could never win and everyone was getting desperate. And we're starting to get to that point, honestly, because we're coming up on 30 years now without a cup, and that's a long, long time for a New York team. And also a team who's had so much success. Like, you look at the Lundqvist years, right?
And 2014, I've said this before to many of my friends. Aside from the Blackhawks and probably the Bruins 2011 team, which was one of the first years I started watching hockey more in depth, the 2014 Rangers team was probably one of my favorite teams of all time. I loved that.
That was the first time I really watched hockey, seeing that run. It was just so fun to follow until the Cup, obviously. But yeah, look, the fact of the matter is this is the team of destiny. The Lundqvist years were almost like, I heard a radio host talk about this, the Patrick Ewing years for the Knicks, where they just kept having good teams and were unable to break through because there was always just some kind of buzzsaw. Like there was Michael Jordan for Ewing. And then you look at the Lundqvist years, like there was always Pittsburgh or Washington or Boston, like someone, with the exception that one year we made it to the finals, someone to stop us. So this year, I think with Boston, as I say, losing early, it'll allow the Rangers to get to the Cup where they will. I hope defeat the Oilers. I think a matchup between those two teams would go to 7. And honestly, it's hard to justify why we beat the Oilers. I'm going to be honest. Like, I can justify through the conference finals, but I just got to hope that once we make it to the Cup, we'll be able to just, you know, keep the momentum going. So Rangers over the Oilers in 7 games is my prediction.
Yeah, again, the big concern with the Oilers, too, is just the defense. And I have seen a lot of people picking the Oilers, but then again, it's a fair pick. Like, I'm not – the NHL playoffs, normally, aside from the year after the bubble where the Montreal Canadiens somehow made their way to the Stanley Cup final, normally it's somewhat, you can kind of get a good indication of who some of the top teams are. And a healthy Bruins team with just the goaltending and defense, I think the defense just takes them over the top. So I think the Bruins take down the Oilers in 6 games. Hopefully the Bruins win the Stanley Cup. Hopefully the Rangers make it to the conference finals. Hopefully the Lightning lose in the second round. Those all are great things for me because I'm rooting for the Bruins now. Hopped on the bandwagon as I do every year since 2017, and I need good picks for the Blackhawks. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We are back. We're hitting a doubleheader, so we're doing this, and don't worry, we're gonna have some NFL, NBA. We're getting closer to the NFL, but we're not there yet. NBA playoffs, we're going to have that coming up as well. So you guys are going to want to tune into that if you guys are basketball fans. Follow us on TikTok, Benchwarmer_sports. Be on the lookout. YouTube Shorts, that's going to be up and running soon over the next few days. So you guys are going to want to keep tabs on that. For Theodore and for Davian, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, I'm Raffi, and we hope you enjoyed. Go Bruins.